uh, silly me, oopsies. No, but we wanted to make sure that when we meet up and we talk about things, that we have a lot to say because we like talking, don't we, Beck?
Yes.
We do. We love to talk. So obviously it's Autism Awareness Month. So
Ooh.
um, I think it's great that we have time dedicated to recognizing the brain difference of our special children or family members, because it just helps to reflect on how they experience the world, I suppose. And I was just thinking about how years ago, and I was talking to somebody about this the other day, like when I was in school, didn't really hear about autism, didn't really know anything about it when I was a kid. And even in uni, I think that was the first time I'd really heard anything about it. So you're talking a good, say, oh gosh, I don't want to let on my age, but a good 10 years ago
Yeah.
was when the first did it. Um, so would you say, Beck, that we've got a lot more information now than we did before?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think like you said, like years ago, like when we were back in school, it wasn't really that well known. I think a lot of people were kind of like, oh, they're just naughty or they're just this or I think it was more put down to like learning disabilities more than a
Mm.
generic kind of actually there's more going on here. And I think nowadays, like I look at the different jobs that I've had, every job I've moved into, there's more of an understanding around autism. Whereas I think years ago back then, I just don't think people understood like they do now. I think a lot of research has gone into it. And I think people kind of like grasp it a bit more now. And I think there's more understanding for children and young people as well now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think of like my husband who only recently got his autism diagnosis. You know, his parents were telling me, well, my in-laws were telling me about how when he was younger, they knew he was different. They took him to be seen by a doctor, and he said, "Oh, he's just a bit quirky." Well, actually, now we know it was autism, but
Yeah.
years ago, there was no real information out there. And there's obviously a lot of talk about there seems to be an influx of people getting diagnosed. You know, everybody seems to have somebody who has autism. It's, what is it? You know, you hear people saying what's in the water, but actually, I think the research, like you say, has gone into it, and there's so much more information
Mm,
that it's people pretending they're coping, they feel empowered to go, you know what, I want to find out if
yeah.
this is what I'm dealing with my whole life. And actually, once they know, they feel better equipped to handle what comes next. But yeah, it does seem like there seems to be a lot more people, but I think that's because there's more information
Yeah.
and we're able to understand better now.
Yeah. And I think people are like recognizing kind of the signs a bit better and actually being a
Yeah.
bit more open because the support is better. It could be a lot better, but I think it is better. And I think people kind of know the way to go for that support now. And people are like, oh, actually, like they see the signs and they think, oh, no, actually, like that could be me or my kid or whatever. And I think it is easier to understand now. There's so much happening about it now, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, as much as I think there's a lot more knowledge and people have a better awareness of it, I do think there's still misconceptions out there.
Mhm.
And like as soon as you bust one myth, another myth emerges. So like obviously the myth around there being a lot more boys on the spectrum than girls, that myth
Mm,
has now been people realise
yeah.
just girls then very differently.
Yeah.
Um, but now it seems to be that I keep hearing people say, "Oh, I think I've got a bit of it," or I've got a bit of autism, or we're all on this somewhere. And what people don't realise is it's like they're trying to kind of make it okay by making it out that everyone has it. Well,
Mm,
actually, validating and accepting people on the spectrum you're actually taking away from their lived experience
Mm.
by saying, "I've got a bit of that, so it's okay for you to have it because I've got a bit," instead of
Mm.
just, "You're different from me, and that is okay. We
Yeah.
still accept you, even though you're different.
Mm.
We're all different. That's okay."
Yeah.
But instead, it's people going, "Oh, well, because I'm a little bit sensory, or, because I like to have control in certain things, that means I'm on it a bit myself."
Yeah,
We all have.
it's almost like people want to like justify their behavior with it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So it's kind of like, oh, I don't know, like being like, I don't know, OCD clean, for example, or CDO, as people would say in it. Like
yeah.
that obsessive clean or whatever, and liking things a certain way, and da 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 da. Like people think, but might try and say, oh, well, that's a bit of autism, that is, you being like that. Actually, no, I just like my house clean and tidy. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or I don't know, or like hyperactive children, for example, and it loads of hyperactive or misbehaved children. Oh, they might have a bit of ADHD or a bit of this or a bit of that. Or is it? Sorry to say, there are some parents out there. It's just lack of discipline. Like, you know, you can't kind of like put the autism card or the ADHD card on people just to justify behaviour. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that that isn't the case, but you know.
What remember is, there are professionals that are trained in these areas, and you can't just put your child in that category because they do one or two things. There's a very specific diagnostic criteria, and I
Mm.
was talking about this in an Autism Awareness coffee morning that I held, and it was like your child has to struggle in social communication, social imagination, and social. There's something else as well. I've forgotten. It's called the triad of impairment. It is social interaction, social communication, and social imagination. So your child has to struggle in all three areas
Mm.
to get a diagnosis of autism.
Mm.
So that's the main criteria. And a lot of people used to think that means that if your child has any form of imagination, that they don't qualify, but that's not the case. Because like Elena, my daughter, she's got a brilliant imagination, but then she can't imagine herself in somebody else's
Mm.
situation. So, like, I remember it was quite funny in school. They wanted her to write a story about a gymnast that broke their leg, and to try to write what it would be like. And she didn't want to because she didn't want to think about breaking her leg. So, like,
Mm.
the only right story was if it was her, but she couldn't do that. And so that's an example of social imagination, is trying to imagine yourself in a particular situation and
Yeah.
how it makes you feel if you were like dealing with something that other person's dealing with, and she couldn't do that. So that is what social imagination is. So like you say, you can't just be like, oh, so and so loves running around all the time, therefore they've got ADHD, or so and so, is very sensory, they've got autism, because actually you can have sensory needs and have ADHD.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think as much as we have learned a heck of a lot, like a huge amount, there's always opportunities to learn. That's what I keep saying is, I know there's going to be more for me to learn on this journey.
Yeah. And it's a bit like our kids. I work within works are I would say work in a children's home, but with very much trauma centered. So we work with very traumatized young people, right? And the amount of children we have come in, and referrals might say, "Oh, possible autism, possible this," and you know what? It's not. It's their trauma has sort of damaged their brain in so much. There's side effects that look
Yeah.
very similar, but it's not. So it could be, for example, like when our youngsters, it could be that they don't communicate very well with people. They lack good communication skills. It's not the fact that they've got autism. It's just the fact they've been abused and so much and so forth. They've been in and out, in and out, in and out of foster homes. Yeah, they've been in and out of foster homes and foster placements and been abused in all those foster placements. Well, their brain is telling them danger, danger, not safe. New people are not safe. you know?
Mm,
Therefore, they don't want to communicate with people and they don't want to build relationships. To a normal everyday person, that may look like autism, but it's when you obviously, for people trained like me who can recognize the trauma, you realize it's not. But so many referrals we get, possible
yeah.
autism, possible this, and once you kind of like,
I think,
go on.
yeah, I get what you're saying. I think it's very difficult, isn't it? Because there is that consideration of they could be, because there's a genetic component with autism, and those with autism are born with that condition,
Yeah,
then they would need to put possible autism because actually it could be very easy to dismiss
yeah,
logical condition, like you say, because of the trauma. So it's a very, very difficult
mm,
to know what
yeah,
to think, really.
yeah,
I suppose the only way to tell if it could be autism is later on as they're developing
yeah,
strategies, obviously in a safe environment, whether they years on still really struggle in social situations
mm,
and socialization and things.
yeah,
I think that
yeah.
would be way to tell.
Yeah, what we have done, so like some of our children, we've come in, we're like, oh yeah, actually, yes, there's definitely, signs, and we've had assessments come in then, and they've had that assessment to go through, and then they like confirm, yeah, actually, they have got autism. Large percentages of the time, actually, oh no, there's no, it's just their trauma, But it's quite interesting for somebody outward looking in who wouldn't know the difference between both, just
Yeah.
automatically
Yeah.
assume put that, it's really interesting. But it's easy done though, isn't it? When you don't know.
Well, yeah, exactly. And it's like I was thinking about autism the other day, and there's still some people who say it's just a label, why go through the process? And I suppose with the way the world is now, there seems to be that whole trying to get people to not go down the route, probably because the mental health services are just inundated with people
Mm,
self-referring or going through their GP. And to me, yes, okay, maybe it's a label, but I think it does provide that person a sense of self, because I think autism's nothing to be ashamed of. I think there's a lot of talented people out there with autism, and actually, they're an inspiration to those on the spectrum who are maybe struggling with self-worth, and then they're seeing somebody who's diagnosed with autism, as a inspirational speaker or an author, and they're like,
mm,
actually, my autism doesn't limit me,
yeah,
um so I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with getting that diagnosis, and it opens doors for support
yeah,
as well.
definitely. Especially, well, for anyone really. Like, if you got, especially people like, sorry, I'm like trying to get. I've got words in my head and I can't get them in words out my mouth. That makes sense.
That's okay.
But I was thinking about like maybe like single parent families with a couple of children, and it's just like it could be. It's just like I need some extra support around here. Like I just need the help, and it could be to some people. Obviously, some people are higher up on the spectrum than others, aren't they? And it could be that
Yeah.
your child's not that high on the spectrum, but still, I need the additional support. You just need that
Yeah.
pair of hands, Definitely.
And I think knowledge, well, they say knowledge is power. You know what I mean? I think the more you know, the more better equipped you are to handle the
Mm.
day to day.
Yeah.
And, obviously, I've had this experience of learning about ADHD. And before I really kind of accepted, this is me, got ADHD,
That right.
I used to kind of see everyone who does the things that come easy, like the day to day stuff, like washing clothes, drying them, folding them, and putting them by, or things that seem simple to everyone else, I would always find really hard, and I had
Mhm.
to work harder to do. And I used to say to myself, just get on with it, buck up. Like, everyone else does it. Come on, get your act together. Like, if everyone else can do it, you should just be able to do it. And I
Mm.
used to get annoyed at myself for finding it hard. but I just kept pushing myself to do those things, even though they were more difficult for me, And in a sense, even though I didn't realize I was working twice as hard, it was kind of good that I saw it like that, because not everyone would. I saw it as, you know what, this is just how because I used to think it might seem really hard for me. Well, this is how it is for everyone, and they get on with it, so I need to back up. Is how I used to think. And
I get
so,
you.
and now I go, actually, that isn't twice as hard. Everyone else finds that easy. You were the only one, obviously not the only one, but ADHD wise, you find it hard, but everyone else finds it easy. And then as time's gone on, I've discovered like really complicated and out of the box problems that people can't seem to wrap their heads around. I can see the different avenues and go, yeah, if you just do X, Y, Z,
Mm,
it'll work. And I simplify it and work it out, no problem,
yeah,
without even thinking. But then easy things like the steps of wash your clothes, dry your clothes, fold and put them by,
yeah.
I can't consistently do. So usually I wash the clothes, I dry them, and then they turn into a clothes mountain, like a little heap. Because the thought
Yeah.
of separating out, folding it and putting it away is just too much for me.
Yeah. Do you know what? There's a meme up there somewhere, and it says, what does it say? Wash cycle like 30 minutes, drying and putting away 7 to 10 working days. Oh dear. I mean, I can't say I'm pretty good. Like, I'm looking at my pile of washing now, and I'm like, yeah. But I have been in work the past 2 days, so I'm pretty good. I usually put my washing away when the kids are in the loft. But I get you though, like, and that's it, isn't it? It's realizing that we all function in different ways. You know,
Yeah,
like for
exactly.
some of those ways, some of those things we might struggle because for a certain reason, like ADHD or autism. But for some of us, maybe it's just that we do struggle. Do you know what I mean? Just because we struggle, it doesn't mean that we've got a bit of autism or whatever the phrase is. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, in when I learned as much as I did about the ADHD, I just checked so many blinking boxes and I was like, how is it only now I'm realizing that this is part of my life?
Mm.
So I think, yeah, you can't just say, oh, I'm forgetful. That means I've got ADHD. You have to really, well, I say really forgetful. I personally am a ridiculously forgetful to the point that I have to write everything down, have reminders all the time. And I'm not very organized. So if I organize something really well and then, it's like human error or people changing plans or asking you to change something last minute, then I've got to make sure I note that it's been changed because I'll forget it was changed and things like that. That can really throw me.
Mm.
But
Mm.
yeah,
Sorry, I was just thinking, and it's funny how different we are, even though like we're sisters, how super
yeah,
organized I am. And I can kind of, I'm very laid back and I can kind of like flow with a plan. Like if somebody if I've organized something changes, I'm like, okay, yeah, no worries. Like, it's funny how we're so different in that way.
say it's not that I can't organize, but I have to work twice as hard to organize it. So I can't just do it laid back. I have to really think about
Yeah.
it, plan it out, and break it down. So then, after all of that work and all of that energy is spent for somebody to like last minute chuck a spanner in the works, and then that has a domino effect on the whole thing I've just done. Yeah, I'm not going to just flow with it because I've just wasted double the energy trying to get it a certain way.
Yeah. And it's mad. I was just thinking about like the people I work with, and obviously like people who know me know I'm like insane, not in like a creepy way, but like in a hilarious way, right? And people will always say to me, "Oh, Han, there is something wrong with you. Like there is something wrong with you." And I know in their head they're thinking she got a bit of autism, you know. But do you know what I mean? And but for me, I'm comfortable,
Yeah,
comfortable enough in my character and who I am to know, like I know I'm not on any sort of spectrum or nothing like that. But people who don't know me that well, but yet see
yeah.
my personality and see that the way that I am, probably think, flipping heck, she needs to get assessed. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like, it goes the other way as well, doesn't it? You know what I mean?
I just think nowadays, like, I don't want to offend anyone. It just seems like people are drones. Do you know what I mean? Like, people, they go to work, they get through their day. Like, you very rarely see anyone's personality anymore. You know, everyone's just like, hey, what up?
The problem
Yeah.
is, right, you say, like, I don't offend anyone. We are kind of like the last normal generation. Like, we've come out of this snowflake generation where you can't breathe without offending people. That is exactly what it is, though. Like, you can't say something without offending people, and it grates my cheese. Honestly.
This is why I think we have a generation of drones.
Mm,
It's like, you
mm,
know, yeah, the 3 bags full, sir. Oh, you can't say this, you can't say that, you can't share your opinion, you can't share your feelings, you can't be, you can't even joke anymore.
mm.
Like,
And this is it, isn't it? And like, we talk about like equality and diversity. And funny enough, me and my partner having this conversation yesterday. We were talking about the new Snow White film, and we don't watch Disney films, but we was talking about it and how the girl that they've cast in Snow White, she's dark skinned, isn't she? And obviously, there's a lot of controversy about that because Snow White is obviously known for having pale skin and dark hair. And I was like, it's interesting because this new Snow White film, they're trying to push equality for like people with darker skin to play these roles. But interestingly, they haven't cast one dwarf to play any of the dwarves. So like, they want equality and diversity when it suits them. They're like playing double standards. And then I think about, obviously, like all the type of like equality topics that go on. My hat will offend many people today, right? But I don't know if you've read it, right? It says Jesus, the way.
no.
Yeah. So, but it's funny, isn't it? How like we all have it double standards of equality. So we've got, you know, our beliefs and our opinions we have to say silence by. But yet again, if somebody wants to identify themselves as something else, I can't even disagree with that. But yeah, it's okay for them to disagree with my beliefs. I'm not asking you to believe it. I'm just saying that is what I believe and that's what I stand by. You know, and we've got this kind of like double standard in life now of, you know, and it just drives me absolutely insane. Hence why I wear my hat.
Just on that, like, offending, not offending, right? If you think, and this is one thing, spectrum, and I think it must feel, in a way, liberating. Like, I'd love to be able to, in a sense, just say what I think, right?
Mm.
So, like, the amount get somebody on the spectrum and they just bluntly, not this, not with any judgment or being rude, they just bluntly say exactly what they're thinking.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hilarious sometimes, but other times I think to myself, say that to the wrong person and you could be in for trouble.
Yeah.
You know, but at the same time, I think I kind of love that.
Oh,
You
it's
know,
amazing. Yeah.
not impressed with something and you just say it, and who cares about the consequences? And I just think, wow. Whereas I end up putting the diplomat front on, you know. Oh well, yes, you know, and I still in such a way that hopefully it won't offend, you know.
Yeah.
But some people they just say it, and I'm just like, you know what, fair play, you know. It just it's quite inspiring because we used to be such an honest generation where agree with somebody and say, look, this is my belief, this is my opinion. We don't have to agree, but we can still be civil and
Yeah.
get on,
And it's
live
gotten,
our life.
yeah, and it's gotten to the point now where people lose their jobs, even just breathing, having a belief and an opinion. I'm not asking you to believe the same. I'm not saying you have to believe the same, but I'm just saying this is what I believe and please respect it. But yeah, a lot of us can lose our jobs, especially when we hold the beliefs that we do. And it's just like, it's insane. And like, especially, and like now I have to kind of like be, especially at my job, like people know where I stand and know my beliefs and I'm very open about it. But people ask me certain opinion on things, and because of my job, I have to say my way of sharing my opinion is, well, I'm not allowed to share my opinion. That is exactly what I say. So I'm like, I'm sharing my opinion without sharing my opinion. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People know that, oh, my opinion is opposite to yours. But, you know.
Speaking about jobs, because obviously I'm keeping on the track of autism, right?
I know, sorry.
No, it's fine. But it's interesting because if you think the government is so fixated on getting people back into work,
Mm.
about people getting off PIP and getting into work. What they don't realise is a lot of people who claim PIP use that PIP to enable them to go to
Yes.
work, right? So imagine how difficult in today's society, where you cannot say what your opinion is, what you think, what you feel, how difficult it's going to be
Mm.
on the spectrum to
Yeah.
get a job and to keep a job,
Mm.
because they're bound to be honest, because it's part of the condition, say what they think, they'll offend somebody,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
there's
yeah.
less times they can be trained and things and warned, they'll end up losing their jobs because, as part of the condition, they're honest without any filter, without any limitations. They will say what they think and think about it. So, can you imagine you've got somebody who comes into, I don't know, a retail store and says, please address me as light on or that I'm a lamp, you know, spectrum goes, but you're not a lamp, you are. And then they go into the whole thing of, what they are body wise and all sorts. That person on the spectrum would be fired on the spot. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Wouldn't last.
Mm. It's mad, isn't it? I reckon they should be on customer services on the phone like that would be brilliant. Can you imagine? That'd
Phone,
be brilliant.
phone, please address me as.
Yeah.
I don't person on the spectrum. Obviously, everyone has different levels of coping with autism. But for those who are naturally like black and white thinking, to the point, they would really struggle in those work settings.
Yeah.
So
It's
it,
definitely something that needs to be done. If they're going to do it, they need to make sure they do it right. This whole pit
yeah,
thing, it needs to be done
it,
properly. And if they're going to say people are not entitled to it, then well, what are they entitled to? Like, they need to really, really be very careful about it.
yeah. I mean, there's been a lot of concern, especially those with physical disabilities, around the fact that they use their PIP for maintenance for their mobility scooters or for their motorised wheelchairs. The PIP payment gets used to maintain those things, so they are out in the community, they are out in society,
Yeah,
and they would be able to get to work if they're able to work, And for those who might have a mental health condition, it used to be not all disabilities are visible. That
yeah,
used to be the clear message you have to keep saying to everybody. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. Well, what happens to those with neurodivergence who
yeah.
really do struggle with managing the day to day, with holding down a job? If they don't meet the mobility side of it, are they just not going to get PIP? When
Mm,
actually, use that PIP for a PA or a support
yeah.
worker because the hasn't got the support systems in place.
Mm,
So I do think really be very careful how they tread.
right.
Um, yeah, they're supposed to be about inclusion and equality. They need to think long and hard about how they approach this so
Yeah,
that it don't, isolating people with disabilities.
definitely. And that's what I was just thinking, like we're talking about equality and diversity and stuff. Like, we need to remember that neurodivergence fits into that basket. Like, it is a
Yeah,
part of it. Like, we think about obviously like gender, religion, and all this kind of thing. But we always, like, a lot of people are forgotten in that category is the word. In the now neurodivergent category, they're forgotten.
yeah.
And it does need looking at, you know.
Yeah, because, some people say about autism that you can grow out of it. That's another misconception. And
Can you grow
I
into?
don't, my daughter as an example, right? When people used to meet her when she was younger, they'd be like, can't see it. Don't know what you're on about. Blah, blah, blah. And as people are seeing her out and about now, they're like, okay.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because as she's getting older, she's finding it more difficult.
Mm.
So she used to have no problem really being out and about. Yeah, okay. She still, was a bit cautious around different activities. Like when she was stick to the baby area and the soft play, when actually she was old enough for the climbing area. So that took a lot of work to build her
Mm.
confidence up. But now out and about, it's like the hood comes down. You can't even see her eyes.
Like Batman.
Coat so and she very much has her own space, doesn't want people in her space. So now when she walks out, people see straight away the way she
Mm.
carries herself, you know. So we work really hard, and that's because we've got the diagnosis, we've got the information to empower her to overcome these obstacles.
Mm.
But if who gets a late diagnosis as a teen, the parents haven't had the information, they haven't had the support, they don't have the full idea of how to even carry on because they're a teenager now,
Mm.
and that's high anxiety. They
Yeah.
struggle with needs like really badly, so that they're limited in going out and about, and they can't interact with other people, but they're expected to get a job because the government is going to get everyone into work no matter what.
Yeah.
Well, there's going to be some that are just not able to, or
Yeah.
they need a intervention and work to
Mm.
get to the point, not just wave your magic wand. Oh,
Yeah.
they're ready now, they can go now, you know what I
Mm.
mean? Sorry.
No, that's it, isn't it? And it's realizing as well that it is on a spectrum, it's on a line. So some people might be able to cope with certain things and some people not so
Yeah.
much. And that is something that needs to be remembered. So when you're trying to slot people into work, like McDonald's, I will say, are very good at it, aren't they? They do
Mm.
employ people with neurodivergence, and I think it's brilliant. It is really good, and I do think more people should do it. But it is realizing if we're going to start shoving everybody into work, like we need to look at people's capabilities and what they can manage. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like somebody might not manage so well in somewhere like McDonald's because McDonald's can be chaos. You
Can
know?
you imagine the sensory issues? If you've got somebody with a lot of sensory issues
Mm?
and the strong smell
Yeah,
cooking, the food,
definitely. They might not like the colour
struggle with.
yellow.
Yeah.
That would be an issue for McDonald's.
No, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think
definitely.
it's like I'm thinking back to a young person I used to support, a young lady, and when I started working with her, she was in her early 20s, and I supported PA, and she didn't know how to cook.
Mm.
She didn't know how to clean, no personal hygiene. So myself and another support person worked with her for a good 2 years, and by the end of it, she'd lost a huge amount of weight. She was heavy. She was off a load of medication. She was looking at doing a college course. Like, so much positive things have come from our time with her. Um, Unfortunately, she's no longer with us now.
Mm.
Her money, her DLA, her PIP was used for us to work with her. We were paid through that as like a job, as employment. So then I think people meeting her would have thought she was quite high functioning. So I just think to myself, for people like that who might not easily score high on the new assessment form for
Mm.
PIP, what if they were using that for a support person and now they don't have the ability to pay for somebody to support them
Yeah.
anymore? I just
Mm.
a lot of put into it,
And
because if you're going to take
yeah,
at least put the service, replace it.
yeah. And I was just going to say as well, like in COVID, they went to over the phone assessments, didn't they? And they kind of
Yeah.
stopped the face to face ones. They need to bring back the face to face assessments. I think this is because there has been an issue with a lot of false claimants. And I only know from experience in my old job, I used to watch these youngsters claiming PIP, managing to get PIP for the mental health, and then they'd sniff it up
Mm,
their nose, right? So I do understand. I do understand why the government are doing what they're doing, but this is why it needs to be done properly. And like they need
yeah.
to bring back face to face assessments. That is going to solve a lot of issues. If they do a face
Or
to face assessment, you can
yeah.
physically see how somebody is managing. You can see the environment around them. Like when you meet somebody face to face and have a physical conversation and interaction with them, you get to know that person more than you would over the phone.
I do think as well, though, they do need to consider professionals' reports, the
Mm.
parents'
Yeah.
reports. Like Elena, as an example, on a good day, somebody
Mm.
could come and go, ah, She don't need nothing.
Yeah.
But then, we struggle with her sensory needs. We struggle with her absconding. If she's going to a new school, she tries to run off, or she gets upset, she tries to run off.
Yeah.
With her sneaking food at night, like things you might not see from just a conversation for an hour are the things that we have to deal with that people don't see.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas this, you could walk into a room and go, "Oh yeah, I see it," straight away. It's like, yeah, there's no doubts whatsoever.
Exactly.
Bless him, bundle of joy that he is. It's getting a bit dark in my. I'm gonna see if I can get Alexa to turn my light on. Sorry if it turns yours. Alexa, turn on master bedroom light.
Sorry.
Yeah. Let there be a light.
Master bedroom.
I do things. Yeah. Another thing people can use, I don't know if they know about it, is access to work. So if you've got a diagnosis of a neurodivergence or anything really, you can apply for access to work. And what happens with that is you can kind of put your application in and you'll get a phone call from like what do you call it? Oh, like an agent, or I don't know what you call them, but they ring you and discuss with you what you feel you need. Now, like for me, I use it and I think it's great. Like work did put accommodations in for me. So things that I didn't realize were affecting me until I really had the information about what things could impact me is that I was sat in my office opposite the printer, which was also opposite the kitchen,
Right.
which was also opposite the door where everyone is coming in. So that would be classed as a high traffic area.
Of course it
So
is.
as people off, they go, "Oh, hey, Rach," because I'm sat opposite the printer. As people are going to make a cup of tea or coffee, "Oh, hey, Rach," because they're walking past my chair. As people are coming in, they're walking past my chair to go to their desk. "Hey, Rach." So I could be working, somebody be coming to ask me a question because I'm right here. Do I want a drink? I'm right here. "Hi, Rachel, how was your weekend?" I'm right there. So then I realised people kept talking to me because I was right there. And actually, it was really, really distracting. So then I said, I need to move. Like, I need to be in a corner, like the other end of the office, so that when people come in, I can choose whether to speak to people, but they're not going to naturally gravitate towards me.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't mind people, but it just seemed to be I was getting it a lot because of where I was.
Yeah.
But I did my coach, not my coach, my mentor or job agent person that I felt like I would benefit from some coaching sessions, so like well-being coaching sessions, kind of like having a life coach. Because sometimes I take on too much and I don't realize, and it just helps to have somebody to talk it through and have me break down things and make me realize I can't say yes to everything.
Yeah.
So some coaching sessions, and they are really beneficial. They've really, really helped me. But it can be for anything. There's a thing you can get. It's not a Rocket book. It's another version of my Rocket book. It costs £500, right? And you write in it, okay, and it like saves your notes straight into like a Google folder. It's incredible. So like a computer type notebook. I've got a Rocket book where you write the notes and then you scan a QR code and save it.
Oh,
Similar idea.
yeah.
Lot a lot cheaper. But there's lots of things you can claim for. The only thing with access to work is you've got to pay for things, keep the receipts,
Oh, and they claim
put
it
your,
back.
then they reimburse you.
Right. Mm.
Just anybody out there that might think, PIP's the only option, you can get access to work as long as you're working.
Yeah. That's good. It's good to know.
Yeah. Yeah, it is handy. So yeah, I think there are options out there for people.
Hmm.
And autism awareness, yeah, I think it's great. Some people are very much like they are reluctant to share that their child has autism or their family member has autism, and they don't want to make a big deal of it. And I think that's their prerogative. I think everyone chooses how they handle it. Me personally, I think the more you accept it, the more you can learn, the
Yeah,
better
definitely.
you'll be, the more opportunity to find your people, find people
Yeah.
who, because there can be people out there who ask, how are things? And if you tell them what the things are like, some people, they ask to be like, well, my child does that. Like,
Mm,
you know, but actually it would be nice. It's nice when you talk with a parent who gets it, they
yeah.
live it. Oh yeah, I get where you're coming from, and you just feel a little less alone. It is
Mm,
ideal. Can find somebody.
yeah. Definitely, definitely. And that's important, isn't it? Having like building those friendships and those connections, you know? Sorry,
Yeah,
definitely being able to do that and connect with people and like lean on people a little bit because it can feel a little bit lonely, I would imagine, especially if you
no,
are the parent family as well,
mm,
definitely.
absolutely. Yeah, so I think we have a lot more information out there, but there's never a time, I think, where we will know everything. I think there's always opportunity to learn, not just about the condition, but about the best way to approach things. Like, I saw about this dad who had this son with autism who really struggled with going outdoors.
Mm,
And the dad's approach was like to take him out of school, and they went camping and they went all around the world. So he basically exposed him to everything. And that seemed to work really, really well for him.
yeah,
But not one size fits all. So I don't think it'll work for everyone, but that seemed to work for them.
yeah,
I know for a fact that with Elena, she wouldn't cope at all.
no,
Meltdowns every day and end up in. Um,
mm,
but there's always something we can learn from each other.
definitely.
Speaking of learning, and I think I'll talk about this to wrap up. As you all know, I did my Accelerate Her program.
Woo!
Do you know what? It was an absolutely fantastic experience. It gave me a real in-depth insight into being a female founder,
Yeah,
starting your own business, and all of the different moving pieces and elements that it involves.
mm,
Um, as some of you'll know, I work full time doing some completely different. So one thing I did learn is eventually this is something I'm going to have to really dedicate myself to time wise because there's
mm,
so much that goes into it. But also, it made me really reflect on getting the app out there, getting that developed, and I think I'm this lady with big ideas, and I have my ideas on top of ideas on top of ideas. So when I first decided, right, this is my starting point of what I want the app to be, it was still too big.
mm,
And I learned that from seeing what other people were doing, how they were approaching things. So my thoughts are that I'm going to be putting out on social media a survey that highlights all of the benefits I want, but I want the parents, my followers, people that really get this journey to select the top 3, top 5 things they would want to be part of the app to start, to kickstart it all. Because I have the lived experience, I know what I think would be beneficial, but it's going to take time. It's
yeah.
going to take time to get there. So I'll appreciate any feedback. I will make sure to put the survey in with this video as well. So anyone who watches the video can have their say too. But yeah, it's exciting times.
Mm,
So this space, we will be making steps forward,
yeah. It's going to be
not
good.
backward.
I think
Exactly. You think what?
we should get caps, heartphone caps.
Do you know what? Yeah, I really like your cap. I think it'd be cool. So I am actually wearing a Heart of Home t-shirt right now, and it's one of the ones without sleeves.
To be honest, my I wore my t-shirt to the gym and it was very sweaty, so it's been in the wash and it's not dry. So the only reason I haven't got it on today. But I was thinking about this today because I love my hat. I only paid like cheap for it on Shein. But I was thinking about it today. I knew we was obviously doing this today. And I was thinking summertime now, like, would be the perfect time for a cap. I love a cap. I would live in a cap if I could.
You would live in a cap.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued by that. You would live
Well,
in a cap.
I mean, some might argue I got a bit of the tism, but, but the point
But
is,
life, right? Not to put you off them for life, okay? But I was watching film the other day. Oh, I think what's it called? Life as We Know It.
Don't know.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So there's a little bit of a sad bit, but it's mostly funny.
Okay.
So a couple has this little girl, and the guy has a best mate. Yeah, guy best mate.
Yes. I think I've seen it.
Yes,
Mm.
best mate. They care, and obviously they pass away. But
Yes.
they leave the little girl to friends, and
Mm.
in the bath, and she's pulling the poo face, the little girl, and
Oh,
and
the scoop of
she
the
goes
hat.
pulling poo face. So then they try to get her on the toilet, and in the end, she grabs the cap off his head and puts it under her bath. Not to put you off caps, Beck, but
She pooped in the hat. Let me assure you, there will be no pooping in my hat. I love my hat. It's amazing.
just don't take it to the bathroom.
Yeah. That's not where I'll be going. I mean, I'm in like my comfies today, but yesterday I wore my hat with like a pair of jeans and like a crop t-shirt. And I looked at myself and I felt like very country western. Like I felt like I should have been on a ranch or something. Like, yeah. That's not what they say. But you know what I mean? I felt like very like, I mean, I look a bit of a state right now, hence why I've got the hat on. But anyway, point being, I think we should get hats. You could have like the hat
Okay.
logo here, you know?
Yeah, we'll make a plan. We'll make a plan to get some
Anyway,
caps.
yeah.
So I think we've covered autism awareness quite well, actually.
To be fair, I
We've
think
dipped
we
into a few.
I know. I think we like rambled on a little bit, or I did. Sorry, I get a bit passionate about things. But
I was trying to recenter you to right. Link that to autism. Link it to autism awareness.
yeah, I think we came. You know,
Yeah. So autism awareness month. You know what I haven't had yet, which I was very surprised at. I haven't had a notification about the Walk for Autism, which I usually get around now.
oh, I just have a text actually.
Oh, did you? I'm
Hmm.
gonna have to see that. Because the Walk for Autism, you can do it over the course of 2 weeks, I think, or a week.
Yeah.
To raise some funds for autism initiatives, I think it is, or one of the autism charities. Also, I think, yeah, it's just sharing. I always share my experiences. I had some coffee mornings where I talked about what it's like raising children with autism, and I've also talked about past experiences and what I've learned from working with people with autism as well. Um, and it is interesting what people's perspectives are
Yeah, definitely.
on. Um, but no, I think because somebody said to me, what was it they said? Yeah, they said they believed everybody had a bit of it, and they said, "Oh, we know that's not your opinion." And I was like, "It's not opinion, not fact, not fact. You've either got it or you haven't got it, all right?" Oh, I
That's funny.
lie. That's what I was thinking back. I was like, "It's
Hmm.
about fact." I didn't say it. If it was on the spectrum, they would have said it's about fact.
It's about fact. Oh dear.
One last thing to say, a funny program to watch on Netflix is Atypical,
Okay.
and it doesn't give you like the whole perfect idea of autism. It gives you kind of one perspective on what it can be like,
Mhm.
and it's this teenage boy with autism, and he's obsessed with penguins in Antarctica, and
Madagascar.
and says everything exactly as he thinks.
Right.
Like it just comes out like blunt. Do you know what I mean? Which is really funny, even the way he says things. But he said there was one episode and somebody said a word he really liked the sound of.
Hmm.
Oh, I don't know if I should say it actually, but let's just say it wasn't an ideal word, right? And he kept saying it in his head again and again and again and again and again. So it kept going like it was like a running commentary, couldn't stop it. And
Right.
then he sat at the table and everybody is just sat there eating, and all of a sudden he shouts it out when everyone's eating it. It's it's a really good program. So funny, the things he comes out with. So if anyone's interested in watching that, it is a good laugh. It is
Okay,
a good one.
that's funny.
Maybe give it a try, Beck.
Yeah.
You'll get a laugh.
I'm kind of intrigued to think of what the word is.
Not one I would say, if that makes sense. It
Say that
probably
again.
doesn't. It's not like an awful word. Like it's not one of the worst possible words, but it's not one I would personally say. So
Ah, yeah, okay, I'm with you.
yeah, yeah, basically. But no, this like the funny other funny moments as well. Because he reaches out to his friend, who's like, I wouldn't say his friend is a bit socially weird as well, but his friend's not autistic. It's like he's a bit over the top, his mate, and he decides that he wants a girlfriend, so he asks his mate for help, and his mate gives him the absolute worst possible advice, and of
No.
course he takes it literally as well. So just it's really funny. It's really good. Anyway,
Okay.
um, so yes, what has been? I don't know what I was going to ask you now.
Don't know.
Favorite things about autism, what would it be?
Sorry, you broke up a little bit then. So what?
Like, what is one of the things you think is really great about autism?
That because a lot of people with, like we said earlier, like a lot of people with autism kind of like almost have no filter and they kind of
Yeah.
say it as it is. But not only that, like they're so like innocent. It's the innocence
Mm,
I love about it. So like
yeah.
you could like for me, I'd act like a loon anyway, and I wouldn't care. But like somebody like with autism would be the same as me, but is just so innocent about it. You know, just
Yeah.
so like wah! And I just love that. I just love the pure innocence of it. You know,
Mm,
like I love that.
yeah. I mean, that's one of my favorite things. I really love how kind of in depth they are with their detail, like
Mm.
attention to detail,
Yeah.
because it can lead to extraordinary things. Like the guy who created Pokemon's on the spectrum. Um,
Oh, that's mad.
did you,
That
yeah?
did not know
So
that.
like lots of people on the spectrum, and they've created these out of the box things, and it's because they've got such like in-depth focus on detail and things that they're passionate about. And
Yeah.
that's what I love. They can throw themselves into something they're passionate about and not just be good at it, not just be great at it,
Mm.
but be like they are so
Yeah.
like infused with it that they give it everything and they come up with something brilliant, you know?
Mm.
Yeah. Right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us
Yeah.
today. I don't know why I'm
You.
talking with this is what I do, right? I get really tired and then
Yeah.
I start acting a bit strange. So
But
when
would
I'm
you like to
tired,
this is an excuse?
honestly, right, Gordon's like, oh, I can tell you're tired because I go a bit mad. I go a bit loopy. I'm like, ding, 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 like this. And he's like, okay, you're tired. And I'm like, yeah.
My problem is, I'm like that anyway. I haven't got tiredness as an excuse. You can tell I'm tired when I'm just like,
Mm.
do you know what I mean? Because I'm like to get all the time, and I'm like all the time, and then like 9 o'clock comes, and I'm like gone.
Very well. Be like, you still wired? And I'm like, no, I'm actually really tired. That's what I do when I'm tired.
Wired. People always think I'm wired all the time.
Well, you know, it's okay. like I said earlier, we're all different, and that's okay.
Indeed.
Indeed.
Amen.
We'll be making plans for our next podcast. We're hoping to get some more guest speakers in because I think it's really great to get different perspectives on different things.
Yeah.
We'll be releasing our newsletter in the spring, so probably May time, June time.
Isn't it
So
spring
we'll have
now?
what?
Isn't it spring
Well,
now?
two.
Huh?
As concerned, and this is probably just me. Maybe this is my issue with time, right? But I think, to me, oh, maybe I'm wrong. No, is it like March, April, May is like spring? In
So
my head,
when the lambing season comes in, that's spring. So like we've got all the little lammies at the minute.
well, there'll be some late bloomers, so we'll go by the late bloomer time.
The late bloomers. My kids were late bloomers. Oh no, they weren't. No, late bloomers mean something totally different. Actually, thinking about it, never mind. Please ignore that comment.
Apology now because I've completely confused everybody. You can expect the newsletter by June. Let's just say.
That's funny.
Feel free to email me and say, Rachel, where's my newsletter? You promised me a newsletter.
Send it along with a sheep. You should put a sheep on the newsletter that's going.
Okay, way off track here now. So keep watching our podcasts,
Please.
comment, tell us how loopy we are and how much you love it.
Yeah.
And we will see you in the next episode.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
Bye bye.